Yours went live before mine, by the things. There we go. Hello, everybody. Again, 2 cameras there. Welcome back to the Friday Confidence Clinic. We hope you have all had a lovely week. And continuing on from our overwhelm discussion that we spoke about last week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about things that are related to that. And self-image is one of those things. And this is a vitally important and ingrained aspect of our lives in general.
So important.
Self-image is a very, very powerful thing. It can open a lot of doors, but it can also be a terrifying thing to have to overcome. And I'm sure that everybody has some self-image issues that they want to deal with and things like that. So we're gonna talk a little bit today about self-image. And if you've got any questions about that, then we can, if you drop those into the chat or you want to WhatsApp or email them into us, then we are able to answer those. So I'm going to hand you over to Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Jasmine, certified wellbeing expert, working with educational institutions and companies helping support family wellbeing challenges. And I was just talking to Aaron previously about a workshop that I gave not so long ago in the UK to a group of 30 students. And it was all about self-image. You know, how do you feel about yourself? And I asked everybody to write on a 1 to 10 how they felt about themselves. 1 being very low and 10 being highest. And 29 out of the 30 students wrote 0. And I was absolutely shocked. And yeah. And I'm still a little bit shocked now. And, you know, then we started talking a bit more, you know, and I was saying, what made you have this number, you know? And one student said, you know, I hate myself. Another student, oh, I don't like the way I look. I don't like my lips. They were criticizing themselves. They were all criticizing themselves. But the strange thing was, they all thought it was a normal thing to not like themselves. You know, it wasn't like anybody was surprised by this. Well, I guess they all had 0, but they weren't surprised and they were criticizing themselves. So I just thought, you know, how important is this topic? You know, if we don't like ourselves and we don't even know that that's not a nice thing to be doing to ourselves, then how can we, where do we go from there? You know, where do we go from there if we hate ourselves?
Well, I think what would be really useful for us to cover today is 2 things. Number 1, where does this self-image criticism come from? And number 2, what realistically can we do about it? And I've obviously got a few ideas.
Yes.
You know, and the generational gap between, you know, Gen Z and the slightly older generation of millennials and things like that. You know, the obvious one I think is social media, and I don't want to pin everything and blame everything on social media.
But you're right. I think. Sorry, I just interrupted.
No.
Aaron, sorry. I think there are many ways, many areas where this can come from, and I think, you know, family could be one. You know, how your parents talk to themselves. You know, if your parents are lacking self-esteem and not being kind to themselves, then as a child, you're going to copy that and do the same. And you're going to think it's completely normal because it's within your family network. Also, as you mentioned, social media can have a huge impact as well. But I always say about social media, if you have a very healthy mindset and you go on social media, I think you're less negatively affected. Whereas if you go on there with a negative mindset and you're feeling quite insecure, I think you could be more affected by that. So I think it's more like a secondary, but that's just one.
Well, I think that, so look, I'm not, as I said, I'm not going to pin it all on social media because before social media,
exactly.
there was stuff like, you know, Vanity Fair Vogue, all of these glamour magazines and
Exactly.
things like
There's
that.
always going to be.
And again, I'm not singling anyone, any
No.
publication or anything out there. All these high fashion magazines, they obviously do serve a purpose and things like that.
Yes.
But the accessibility of things like this on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and
True.
all of these other channels. Back in the day, one magazine a month came out, and that's all that you would get, right? So you could read it, okay, you could reread it and reread it and reread it and reread it, but it would still be the same stuff. Now, if you look at the stuff on social media channels, it's supercharged, right? Because not only can you see all of that stuff, but you can see thousands of posts from that one outlet.
True.
And then you can go and scroll down another one and see thousands more. So it's amplified.
True. Yeah.
And I think that has and this is the thing, so nobody sort of tells anybody about the rules of the internet. Don't believe everything you see. There was a really, really great thing I saw a little while ago about Kim Kardashian, right? So Kim Kardashian, I think we can probably hold up as the pinnacle of the idea of high fashion and beauty and all of these kind of things. Say what you like about her, whatever, right? But there was a clip a little while ago of her trying to get, or not trying to get, but explaining her process for how she managed to get one Instagram post. And she stood there and she did her hair and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes. I will take 400 to 500 photos and I will critique each one individually before I settle on the one that is going to go out. I'm like, how do you compare, right?
Exactly. Well, that's the problem, comparing.
And this is the thing that I think that people need to be aware of is that behind that one incredible image, there is hours and hours and hours and hours of working and reworking and professionals being involved and critiquing and changing and editing. And sometimes I wish that when you logged on to social media channels, it's like in your car, in your wing mirrors, where it says objects in the mirror are closer than they may appear. Objects on your social media feed are faker than they actually appear. And I think that would certainly be.
It's definitely having those conversations about social media and just reminding ourselves that it's not real. It's not always real. The images we see are not always real. But I think coming back to your first question, where else does it come from? I think we can feel bad about ourselves, like I said, from parents if they're not talking to themselves in healthy ways. But it could literally be, as a child, you could be healthy, doing okay, everything's great, and then somebody says something, a nasty comment, like oh, you look terrible in that, or you look fat in that, or anything. And that can actually really destroy your self-image, the perception of how you see yourself, because then you could internalize that, and maybe you don't want to tell anyone. And you can disconnect from other people. You can start feeling bad about yourself. Is that really true? And maybe you don't have the language to tell anybody or the confidence to talk about it. So you start really believing it, and then you can just go, you can downward spiral in that. And that's just a comment. A comment can, we all probably remember things that people say to us that are not always nice. Yeah.
I mean, how would you teach somebody to defend or protect against that? Because people say mean things to people all the time. Sometimes they're offhand.
Yes.
Sometimes people don't mean to say these things.
Exactly. It can be a flippant comment, but then it can change your whole entire world. So I really do that. So I think, again, it's about like what we're doing now, raising the awareness, because we have to make these conversations familiar and comfortable and normal and part of everyday life. If we're having these healthy conversations within the family, you know, so your children can talk to you about anything that they're experiencing. Because 9 times out of 10, okay, a comment is said to you, but you mention it straight away to somebody who you feel safe with, then it dissipates and everything goes back. It's okay then. The problem is you hear the comment and you don't talk about it as a child, especially. Then you start imagining things, thinking the worst, feeling bad about yourself because you don't know maybe how to process that comment. So it really comes back again to what we always talk about, having that effective communication in the family, talking about things before they get out of hand, because once it starts affecting your behavior, your day-to-day activities at school, then more problems come, yeah? So I think it's effective communication within the family. So having these, as parents, talking to your children about everything, everything.
So I've got another question for you. Okay. So we talk about self-image,
yes,
right? And how people can have a lack of confidence in their self-image. How can we have confidence in our self-image? Right? Because a lot of people express themselves through their hairstyle, through their makeup, through the clothes they wear, things like that, right? You see somebody walking down the street in, a particularly loud shirt. You think, oh, God, blimey, they're brave, aren't they? How would people have confidence in their
self-belief? Self-belief, isn't it?
How would they go, you know what, actually, I do look good today. I do feel good about myself. And anyone can say anything they like. It's not going to knock my confidence.
What a fabulous place to be in, if I can say.
It's the world that I live in every day. I just don't even look in the mirror anymore. I'm just like, this guy.
What an amazing place to be in. I think, again, it's like I said, it's awareness of the words that you say to yourself. It all starts with the words you say to yourself. And, some of us can be so self-critical. I know for me, I'm quite self-critical still now, but before, I was horrible to myself. Horrible. I would look in the mirror. I hate that. Oh, you look terrible. For about 5 minutes, and then I'd start my day. So awareness of what you're saying to yourself when you look in the mirror, and then having the courage to change those words. And they might feel uncomfortable at first. You go to the mirror and you say, "I'm happy with myself," or "I am enough." And it will feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable at first, but you keep doing that. And so it's all about words. And you just, that's how it starts, with an affirmation. And then you keep doing that. Like, I've worked with many teenagers and they've changed their whole entire life because of the words that they say to themselves every morning. So that's the first step, being conscious of the words you say to yourself. Yeah. That's simple.
And this is something that we do a lot of as well with our character development workbook. So we have a workbook that covers 3 months worth of training, and we build in daily habits. And the confidence, conduct, and concentration side of things. And with the confidence one, typically we say do some exercise in the morning, do like 10 push-ups, because it's an easily achievable goal. It makes you feel 10 good.
Push-ups, easy.
Yeah. Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? Says the person who hasn't yet come to our training classes.
I'm coming. I was going to tell you that today.
But if you track that daily, and you really do see those sorts of things. And what's interesting, right, is that a lot of people see these things as it can change your life and things like that, but they look at the mountain and they go, oh my God, I've got to get up there, rather than looking at the step that they need to take every day.
Yes.
And if you really break it down into even like a data science experiment, okay, I'm going to experiment over the next 90 days how my mood is going to improve, or how I feel about myself on a daily basis. 10 being absolutely super duper fabby dabby,
you can even do that.
0 being the worst, I hate myself, I wish I would just fall into a hole and never be seen again. But if you then sort of do those, so I'm going to have these daily affirmations. Okay, how do I feel about that? Well, actually, day one, I probably feel about a 1 because nothing changes if nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
So, day one.
And that's okay to feel a 1.
But towards the end, you might still feel like a 1, but in between, then you might have had several 10s and 9s and 8s and things like that. So from a data science perspective, you could go, well, okay, actually, this does work. This does help me feel better, and you build those habits with that, right?
Brilliant, and I like that because it's really starting small, simple and small. And like I said, with the words on the mirror. One of my clients, she just wrote, I think I told you this before, you are swag, can't even say it. Yeah, she just wrote that, and that changed her life because every morning she would see the affirmations, and she felt good, and then that feeling helped her in school. So she felt good when she went to school. Instead of feeling silly and stupid in class, she actually felt good because she had told herself that already. So, it can start with simple 3 words. What 3 words can you write on the mirror?
So there's we're actually running a confidence course for our parents.
Oh yes, that's
but it's to help their children work on the work that we do in class, right?
Okay.
Because students come to us and they do their stuff in class, and that's all well and good, but sometimes parents need a little bit of support on
definitely
continuing to build on those things, right? So we had this conversation the other day, and people were saying that they were struggling with their children as well as themselves to actually do the affirmations because they didn't believe it.
Yes, exactly. Because you feel uncomfortable when you're not used to saying these words. You might say, "Oh, I love myself," and then you say, "It's a lie. I don't. This is wrong." But you have to keep going. Sorry, carry on.
So, and this is the typical thing, right? So, if you consider, especially the British mindset of being self-deprecating, okay?
I know.
It's quite bad for us. Oh, don't say that. It's not. I can't.
Exactly. We're not used to complimenting ourselves, are we?
So, one of the things that we suggest for parents to do, and this works for adults as well, is not necessarily talk about, oh, I love you, or oh, your nose is looking great today, or oh, your hair, wonderful, how great. But to actually talk about personality traits or characteristics, because it's easier for you to say, I'm really proud of how kind you were to somebody today. I'm really proud of how compassionate you were that somebody at work is going through a hard time.
Yeah.
And you can say that to yourself because it's a statement that's true. And it's easy to believe true things. It's difficult to believe things that you don't necessarily believe to be true at that time. If you look in the mirror and you don't like your stomach, it's really hard for you to say, I love your stomach.
Of course.
Because you don't at that moment in time. But what you could say is, I love how hard you're working in the gym at this moment in time.
That's very good.
And over time, that then builds up. And this can be all kinds of things. Look at yourself in work. I'm sure people get into the office, and we spoke about this last week, right? The anxiety rising as you get closer and closer to the office, and you walk in and it's a war zone. Phones are going, emails are coming in, coffee's being thrown around, there's a meeting about a meeting, and it's, and it's just carnage. And, perhaps, you have a crazy day in the office and maybe you don't feel like you've got much accomplished, but, you step out and you take that deep breath and you look at yourself in the mirror when you get home and you go, I'm so proud of how well you handled everything today. I'm so proud of the fact that you didn't flip out and, throw somebody's computer out the window, these kind of things. Because then those eventually do become, aspects of your life. And you go, you know what? You can turn around and say, I do like me. And I think that's a very powerful thing
Exactly.
for people to be honest about themselves and say, actually, no, I do like me. I think I am a nice person. I think I am kind. I think that I am helpful, and I will go out of my way to help somebody else, even if it is difficult for me.
And that's a good point as well, helping other people, you know. So that's what I say to teenagers I work with, you know, who can you help in your class today? You know, because we all know when we help people, that gives us a boost of confidence. We feel good, don't we, when we help somebody? So I think helping somebody else can really make a difference as well.
There's an interesting statistic that you know, they say that smiles are infectious. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was to do with interaction.
True. Yeah.
And it was something like people are 25% more, and don't quote me on this number, I could just be pulling this completely out of thin air.
Yeah.
But people are like 25% more likely to help somebody else if they see somebody else helping somebody else that day. So the likelihood is that if you see somebody helping an old lady across the road, you yourself are then more likely to go and do something positive and kind for somebody else.
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, so it is, well, the people you surround yourself with, but also the people you see on a daily basis. Everyone affects us. Everything affects us.
It's really important, I think, to do those things. And again, it's, you know, being in those high stress environments, especially in work. You know, if we talk about work, you know, your self-image, you know, especially in a place like Dubai where people are, you know, you need to be looking sharp in your suit, you need to be driving a nice car, you need to have the latest iPhone, you know, and, you know, all this kind of stuff.
That's why I was surprised that this was in the UK, this school. So I think, I know what you mean here. It seems like there's more pressure as well, but I think it's everywhere. I think it's everywhere. Yeah.
I think it is everywhere. And I think that it's, you know, incredibly important that everybody recognizes, you know, again, it just comes back to recognizing these things. You know, how do you know when you're burning out? How do you know when you feel overwhelmed? How do you know that you're experiencing a big emotion? You know, well, how do you know that you're, you know,
exactly,
that you're actually impacting your own mindset, mental health, and happiness by not being aware of the fact that you're actually being really unkind to yourself?
And again, and I think it starts with having real, honest conversations. And I think parents need to create that space with their children and model it themselves. You know, parents can say, you know, I'm feeling this today. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but I'm going to do this to make myself feel better. You know, we can model this for our children, teenagers, and we can model them, showing them how we overcome these feelings as well. You know, I think the danger is when parents pretend everything is perfect and everything's great, and it's not, and children can sense that.
I was literally going to say this thing. Parents also need to recognize that, well, two things. Number one, everybody's too busy to care about what you're doing as a parent.
I know.
But similarly, you as a parent need to recognize that you cannot present a perfect outward presentation to the rest of the world and to your children. It's so important that actually you demonstrate yourself as a flawed individual and be able to recognize and own up and say these things. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff about, you know, apologizing to your children and actually meaning it.
Yeah.
You know, if we as parents don't understand that it's okay for our children to see us as flawed individuals, as people,
making mistakes,
then they're less likely to repeat those later on. You know, oh, it's okay for me to make a mistake. Oh, it's okay for me to not have everything together, right? You know, parents, I think, feel a lot of pressure to have that self-image of having a great job, you know, being able to go out and exercise, having a wonderful family life, you know, being the perfect, you know, kind parent, you know, that makes life wonderful for them and things like that. that's not how it is.
No.
And I think that people need to sort of, again, give themselves that break, but recognize when they're trying too hard. You know what? You've had a long week at work and you don't really feel like
Exactly.
give
yourself
doing
a break.
this sort of thing.
I think, again, it's about giving yourself a break, isn't it? Because I think we can all put so much pressure on ourselves, and then, like you said about the burnout, and then you might feel like you're burning out, but then you're still putting pressure on yourself, and saying negative things to yourself, and it all eventually will take its toll.
Absolutely. So let's recap these bits and pieces. What is self-image? Where do we need to be careful when thinking about self-image? And what can we do to gradually improve that over time?
Well, self-image is how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself. Are you happy with yourself? Do you hate yourself? That's self-image. And it can change. It can change. What was the other question? Sorry.
Where do we need to be careful about looking at self?
I think the most important part of self-image for me at the moment, especially when we're talking about, introducing the topic of self-image, is the words we say to ourselves. Being aware of the words that we say to ourselves, because they create the most impact. Of course, other people's words can create a lot of impact on us as well. But if, for example, somebody could say something negative to you, but if you have a healthy self-image, you might just say, "That's okay. I'm not going to listen to that." If you're feeling you have an unhealthy self-image, you might think, "Oh my God, they're right. That's true. And I'm bad at this, and I'm terrible at this." So it's about so it's our words that are the most important. So that's the most important thing about self-image. And your last question.
What was my last question?
Sorry, so how you feel about yourself, the words you say to yourself, and keeping it simple as well. We're not saying, one day you have an unhealthy self-image and the next day everything's perfect. No, it will never be perfect. But it's about being conscious of the words you say to yourself and knowing that it creates a lot of impact in your life.
Yeah, that was it. What can we do to improve our self-image? Yeah.
Write on the mirror. Or the first thing is, what do you say to yourself when you look in the mirror each morning?
That's a great idea. Just record that. What's your initial first thoughts when you look in the mirror?
And if you say something negative about yourself, don't beat yourself up about that as well. Because that's the thing. Because you might say, "Oh, I look terrible. Oh no, I've said something bad," and then you feel bad about that. And it's a vicious thing. So the first thing, what do you say to yourself each morning in the mirror?
All right, bit of homework for everybody.
That's the homework.
So for the next week, we want you to record what it is that you say to yourself internally when you look in the mirror in the morning. And, again, there's no judgment. It's not supposed to be positive or negative. It's just data collection.
Exactly, awareness.
Write them down and see if the same things occur, and then start to become aware of these things. And then what you should do is just take a note of those things, and then the next week try and either stop that thought from coming, say, "Oh, I don't like the bags under my eyes." Like, "Oh, okay, you have bags under your eyes." And
it's okay.
Work like that.
You're not going to go from, and we're not saying that you look in the mirror and say you hate yourself. I mean, you might not do that. I've done that before in the past, but you're not going to. It's not going to be from "I hate myself" and the next day "I love myself." No, it's like you said. There's going to be stages, levels. It takes time.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so we have come to the end of another Friday Confidence Clinic, and a really great topic this week. So I really hope that everybody got something useful out of it. Jasmine, please let everybody know where they can find you.
So Jasmine Navarro on LinkedIn and Withnava on Instagram.
Excellent, good stuff, guys. So obviously, from my side and the Warrior Academy, wonderful to see you here, Jasmine. Excellent conversation as ever. and we shall see you all next week. Please send your messages in to Jasmine or to the Warrior Academy, WhatsApp, email, phone call, piece of paper. Come and speak to us in person, whatever you like. We will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Every week at 10:30. See you there.